You may have been feeling this for a while, I know I certainly have, but suffice to say, the VTuber community is changing. No longer are the days of it being a niche and comfy hobby for enthusiasts to enjoy on the internet. It's now a multi-million-dollar industry that's hitting the mainstream. And now with it hitting the mainstream, people are clamoring up to become the next hotshot in the VTubing community, causing a bit of an influx of indies to sort of enter the market. And with a lot of people joining the VTubing community in such a mass wave, of course some changes are going to happen to that community, and that's what we're here to discuss today. How has VTubing changed, and how will it continue to change over time? Back in the early days of VTubing, you'd be hard pressed to find nearly as many different types and segments of VTubers as you can now. Whether you're looking for a cute tsundere demon girl or a rapping apprentice of the Grim Reaper, no matter what you're in the market for, the VTubing space pretty much has you covered. There's practically a gold rush out there for indies looking to fill each and every market demand you could possibly imagine. In some ways, there's almost been no better time to be a fan than now with how many creators have come into the space. It's a bit of a mixed bag though, like I said. On one hand, you have a wide pool of VTubers for you to send your support toward. However, on the other hand, there's so many that it's almost hard to find one that's really special. To no surprise, finding the right VTuber just for you is difficult because a lot of them do tend to mesh together in some way or another. A lot of small VTubers try to capture the charm that some of the larger VTubers have by imitating them, but honestly, that's really not the way to go. I think what people value in a lot of VTubers to some degree or another is authenticity. People now especially want a VTuber is naturally funny and interesting but aren't faking their personality to gain an audience, which, unfortunately, I've seen way too many creators seemingly try to do. Thankfully, a lot of good, authentic creators do exist, and I'll probably talk more in depth about some of my favorites in a future video, so stay tuned for that. But to my point from earlier, this is probably one of the best times to be a fan or even a creator in the VTuber space with how accessible the whole medium is. However, with accessibility comes problems, which lead me to my next point. Drama. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it, but with the rise of practically any community on the internet, in tandem comes the rise of drama, infighting, and all the toxic nonsense in between. Now, why can't we all just enjoy cute, wholesome anime girls in peace? The world may never know, but with the rising community of VTubers, it's almost every single week you're going to hear a story covered by people like Rev Says Desu or Kyoi. Whether it's a Twitter meltdown, a call-out post, or someone apologizing for their past actions, it's drama at the end of the day and is going to escalate in prominence as time goes on. Now, don't get me wrong, drama has always existed within the VTubing space. One must look no further than my VT videos for that. However, somebody who's been involved closely with the community and its ongoings, it has been on a noticeable uptick in the past year. Now, why could that be? Well, with the influx of new creators come a diverse set of ideas, beliefs, and values coming from people behind the VTubers. As such, not everyone's gonna see eye to eye on everything. And since we as a species can't just meaningfully disagree and move on with our lives, people are bound to call one another out for negligible behaviors and actions which honestly don't deserve the bandwidth they were sent over. Now, this is not to say you can't or shouldn't call out bad behavior, I've done so in the past, but it's usually the case in most instances that the drama is really from a lot of people who I would like to call tourists. Now, I'm not the first person to coin this term, but hopefully I'll be the one to popularize it because it's fitting an apt description of the following. A tourist is someone who enters a community and engages with the media within that community to only a vague and surface level extent. But despite this very minimal engagement with the media, they are very vocal about being a part of the community and oftentimes are very vocally critical about parts of the community that they dislike despite them really not being a part of that community. So for example, if you see someone shitting on anime as a member of the anime community and they've only seen Full Metal Alchemist and Dragon Ball, I mean, they're not really a member of the anime community at that point, they're kind of a tourist. Now, I'm not doing the whole, oh, you're not a real fan thing because you haven't seen X, Y, or Z. It's just really hard to call someone a fan of something when they're barely even into it. Drama usually comes from tourists because they enter a community and tend to dislike one part or another about it and feel the need to vocalize it to the high heavens. Before anyone misconstrues me, you can vocalize a dislike of something in a community, but these critiques probably should come from people actually in the community as they usually know more about it than a tourist would. You can feel free to disagree with me in the comments, I'm open to that discussion. However, I've noticed a lot of people who don't even like Hololive or VShojo or know much about the history or culture of VTubers enter the space, become VTubers, and then disrespect fans or complain about certain aspects of the community upon learning about them. It just doesn't make sense to me that people enter the VTubing space, become a VTuber, and then complain about how much they hate anime fans, which is a real thing I actually saw happen. Tourists just tend to drum up the most controversy as backlash from more seasoned community members come flooding their way when they spit their hot takes. It does strike me that a lot of these people have seemingly become VTubers for only the growth, opportunity, and promise to strike it big that comes with being one, rather than out of a love for the hobby, community, and medium. But that's just my 2 cents. So with these 3 significant changes to the community being at the center of the medium, what's next for the VTubing space? Well, here's what I expect to happen as the VTubing space continues to evolve and adapt over time. Needless to say, the VTubing space will become even more saturated with indies and startup corporations as time goes on. We're already seeing this happen as discussed earlier, but I see this trend continuing into the near future. And not to sound dramatic, but I think we'll eventually have a collapse, so to speak, where people realize the crowdedness of the space and move elsewhere as a creator or learn some way to innovate on established trends. I mean, we've already seen a lot of innovation in the VTubing space, so I think it's going to definitely happen where people are going to either adapt or die, which sounds pretty harsh, but it's the natural aspect of the creator ecosystem that we kinda just have to deal with. I think those who are already doing very well for themselves will continue to do very well for themselves, but newer creators are definitely going to have to try to do something new and innovative to survive in the space. I expect a lot of new creators are going to start challenging the old norms and expectations of what it means to be a VTuber, as we're already starting to see this happen. For example, the idea that VTubers cannot date or share their relationship status with their audience is already starting to be challenged heavily within the community, and frankly, that's a good thing. A lot of the idol culture aspects associated with being a VTuber have already kind of eroded, however I see this further dwindling as time passes. Another example of something which is sort of taboo that I've seen done openly is revealing one's identity to the public. Many prominent members of the community have broken the illusion, so to speak, with their audience, which still remains a bit of a controversial thing but is happening more frequently. These old norms of the community will continue to be challenged as the space grows and sees the appearance of new faces in the media. While I can definitely see some of these things being challenged as a good thing, it definitely will not be to the liking of everyone, which leads me to my next thing. Division and factionalization among communities have existed since the dawn of time. VTubers are no different. Whether it's the Hololive versus Nijisanji wars or the indie versus corporation debates, you're bound to see a sort of clique form around certain creators or beliefs within the community. As the medium continues to expand into the mainstream, further factionalization will begin within the space. Whether it be the people yearning for the good old days or those who refuse to accept the changes to the culture, is bound to happen in one form or another. This is inevitable in any fandom, culture, ecosystem on the internet as it expands to an audience outside of its original in-group. Some parts of the community are bound to dislike other parts of the community, and thus perpetuate the cycle. One such example of this that I see more frequently in the VTuber community is the dislike of English indie VTubers altogether coming from those who were in the hobby when Japanese VTubers were the main ones dominating the space. This form of gatekeeping will always happen at one point or another in a fandom's history. But anyways, in conclusion, the VTubing community has changed and will continue to do so in the next few years as the hobby evolves and new fans and faces enter the space. We can either accept some of these changes or fight back against them. Whether you do that or not, I'm going to leave that up to you. But hopefully you enjoyed this deep dive into the ways the VTuber community has and will change in the future, and took something away from the video. If you did, let me know what you think in the comments below and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more VTuber content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.